So some of you may know I like to make cutting boards. Recently saved a couple of tables from a burn pile, so cut them down to strips and building a chopping board for a holiday house down at Bundina. Yes, as you can see here, I've still got my old 1990s Triton Work Center with an old Hitachi saw underneath with an upgrade blade. Just cutting everything up here. As you can see, we've got a nice endgrain pattern along the end. This will eventually be an endgrain board. Now, just putting these patterns together because I'm building this into two different boards to produce the pattern. As you can see here, I glue these boards up separately. My Azito planer can only plane up to 300mm wide. These boards are a bit bigger than that, so just gluing them up into sections at the moment, hence why there's no glue in the middle. As you can see, plenty of glue being used, making sure these things do not come apart in the long run. Clamp, and here we are here. Before they go through the planer, they split, go through the planer, and then I join them together into full-size boards, as you can see here. Now that looks pretty cool as they are, but I of course need to cross-cut them to put them into this panel like you can see here. Just checking the camera angles here and thought, you know what, I've just recently shaved. Larissa thinks that I look like a peg and have no chin. Just setting out my pipes here left over from a plumbing project that I use for glue ups. This is great, keeps everything off my workbench, keeps everything flat. Yes, I'm wearing a Milwaukee shirt. I may have used to work for them, but in the hope they see some of my videos and go, you know what, this dude was pretty good to work for us, so let's give him a new table saw to update his Triton. Just putting the panel together right now. Plenty of glue. Of course, I use the Type Bond 3, as everyone that makes cutting boards will tell you. That's what they use. It's food safe, waterproof, etc, etc. It is the glue to use for cutting boards. So glue, glue, glue. We get these all together. We'll clamp them up, and next on the agenda, once this is all done, is router sled to get it flat. Can't put it through the planer, it's not recommended due to being endgrain, so we use the router sled to get this flat. As you can see, nice and flat. There are a few imperfections in the board, but we will get these out. I make up a little batch of sawdust with the Type Bond 3, and we sort of mix all that up together and fill in all those little minor imperfections and cracks that have appeared in the board after the routing. Yeah, bit of time consuming here. I missed the bits where I actually cut this square, so you can see here squaring the board up, making sure everything is fine before routing the handles in. Board this size, handles do make it a lot easier to carry around, and then we will route the chamfer in. Just make sure that that's nice and fine before we get to the next stage. This is where we're at right now before the finish sanding. A few scratches, as you can see. Get into a little bit of detail sanding around the handles, making sure everything's nice and rounded and perfect, and then hand sanding internal in the handles, just making sure that they're pretty much spot on before we get to the final finish. Bit of hand sanding, getting out the router marks. This is very important before we get onto the stage of finish sanding. We'll run through the grits, 80, 120, 180, 240. Just getting all the marks out, making sure this board is going to be nice and smooth. A lot of more detail sanding around the handles and the edges. We don't want anyone scratching their hands or cutting their hands on this board. And then finishing off with some real detailed hand sanding. We will then give the board a water pop. What this does, this just brings the grain up so it doesn't get so fairy after the first wash, and then we'll go over it with our final finishing sandpaper grit. I believe with this one it was a 320 finish on this board. Finish off all the edges again, make sure everything is perfect, and then we'll put the stamp on. First board with a stamp, and I managed not to get it straight, and that's unfortunate, but we get through that. Then we apply the walrus oil here. Don't worry, no walruses were harmed in the making of this video. I love this stuff. Give it a good coat and just let it set for 24 hours. Wipe off all the excess before hitting it with the walrus wax. I like giving this a real good buff in to protect the wood. and give that real nice shiny finish. We'll then wipe that off, wax on, wax off, as Mr. Miyagi says, and that looks absolute mint. We will finish it off with some feet so it doesn't slide around along the board, along your cut bench top, and here is the finished product. Thanks for watching.